Welcome to our channel, Million Dollars Made Easy. On this channel, we love to run numbers for people. And what we do is use the S&P 500 returns for the last 100 years. We project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future, and the resulting numbers are simply a possible range of what may happen in the future. In this video, we're going to look at the importance of your planning for Social Security. Let's just say somebody's 44 years old. I've developed this spreadsheet to show you the impact of Social Security on your planned retirement. Let's say you've been able to save up $75,000. Let's say you can contribute $400 a month towards your nest egg, and you're going to increase that 3% a year. So 400 the first year, then 412, and so on, going down through it. This is the money you're putting in. Now, if you take Social Security at age 67, you're going to have this money working for you for 23 years. Now, let's say you open up your Social Security statement right now, and it says at age 67, you're going to get $2,400. And by the way, let's go ahead and say your expected expenses right now, not planning on inflation, just looking at right now, it'd be $5,000. So over this 23-year period, if you had an inflation rate of 3%, you're going to need almost $10,000 to have the same kind of buying power as the $5,000 today, given that 3% inflation rate. So in other words, your Social Security, you're going to get, by the way, this 2,400 is actually going to grow. That's the nice thing about Social Security. It's so crucial. Even though your Social Security statement says at age 67, you're going to get 2,400. If you do that for 23 years and Social Security gives you an inflation rate of 2.5%, which is kind of what it's been doing, you're going to that's actually going to go to 42.35. So at age 67, you would get 42.35. Now, if you take it earlier than that, you're going to get less, and these are the different amounts. So we're going to cover that in just a second. So right now, you're going to get 42.35 from Social Security at age 67. That's 23 years from now. You take your expenses minus what you're going to get for Social Security. You're going to need $5,633 from your nest egg. And I've run the numbers for every single year given that scenario. I can actually show you what we're doing here. We're taking all these numbers for all these years and calculating them all out. So this is all based on what's happened in the last 100 years. In the last 100 years, even in the worst case scenario, with these numbers, you would not run out of money. But if we change any of these numbers, say for example, you only had 35,000 saved up, how does that change the numbers? Now you're running out of money. Again, this is the worst case scenario in the last 100 years. This is the second worst, third worst, fifth worst. And I like to go to the 10th worst because that means 90% of the time you'd have at least, your money would last at least as long as what's ever in right here. So we can see it's over 30 years. But in the worst case scenario, if you happen to have that, which what are we talking about? If you happen to run in the worst decade in the last 100 years, you would actually run out of money in 22 years. But let's go back to the 75,000 here. And let's say instead of retiring at age 67, you retire at age 66. Let's see if that makes any difference. Nope, your still money's lasting 30 years, even in these worst case scenarios. Let's go to age 65. Now we're starting to have some issues where you run out of money, especially in the worst case scenario. You're running out of money in 20 years, second worst 28, 29, and 30. Let's go to age 64. Now you're running out of money in 13 years in the worst case, 15, 16, 19, and 10% of the time you're running out of money in 21 years or less. What's going on? What is causing the problem here? Realize that when you take, the earlier you take Social Security, age 64, you only get 80% of what you were promised. And also at age 44, if you go out at age 64, you've only got Social Security growing for 20 years. Remember, that was a number right here we have to go with. So this 20 years, your full retirement amount would be 39.33, not what it just was. What was it before? It was 42.35. Now it's 39.33. And since you're retiring at age 64, you only get 80% of that. So you're getting 31.46. You still got the same expenses. They're a little bit less because you're running this 5,000 for 20 years, not 23. But if you subtract that, you're going to need 5,884 from your nest egg. But what else is happening? You're putting in money for only 20 years instead of 23 years. And so in the worst case scenario, you'd be running out of money. You go down through here, right here. You're starting to take it right here. and you're actually running out of money in, excuse me, that's 13 years right here. You're starting to run out of money right there. Again, folks, that's the worst case scenario. That's looking at all this data and looking at the worst case scenario, worst row you can find here. You're actually running out of money in 13 years. Watch what happens if you take it at age 62. Let's go to 63. Let's see how these numbers change. 63, you're putting in for less time. You have less for that Social Security growth. Now you're running out of money in 9 years in the worst case scenario. 11 years, 12. Actually, I think we're missing one right here, aren't we? Let's see which one we're missing. Okay. Second lowest, third lowest. And 90% of the time, or 10% of the time, you'd actually be running out of money in 13 years. See the importance of when you take Social Security. If I change this back to 67, remember what we had then? No problem, not running out of money at all. Why? Because you've got 23 years for this Social Security amount to grow, plus you're getting 100% of that amount, plus you've got 23 years for this $400 a month to go instead of age 62. You only had 18 years. Let's go back here. This would only be going for 18 years. That'd be less for this to grow. And you only be getting 70% at age 62. Remember right here, you get age 62, you get 70% of whatever your age 67 amount is. So you're actually makes a big difference when you take it. Now, if we change any of these other numbers, um, if you start earlier, then that's going to help a lot. If you're doing this at age 38, say you only had 25,000. But that shows you what we can do with this channel. We run all kinds of different numbers. Okay, you're running into problems in 11 years with this 38 years, even though you got 24 years. But if you go back up to age 67, watch what happens. All those numbers disappear. 65, still lasting more than 30 years. 64, looks like the worst case scenario, you run out of money in 30. But see the importance of that? 63, now you're running out of money. Why? Because you have, instead of 20, at age 67, you had, what was that? Age 67, you had 29 years for this Social Security amount to grow. 29. So you'd be getting 4,911 right here, 4,911, and you'd be getting all of it. You get 100% of that. Remember this right here, you get 100% of your 67. When you start taking less, you're getting less, plus you're having that less time for that to accumulate. So if you take this at age 64, instead of 29 years, you've got it 26 years. You're getting less there, and you're only getting 80% of that. In this case, you're still okay, but if you go to age 62, then you have a bigger problem. Then you'd have 24 years for it to work. But look at these numbers, folks. Again, these are always the worst case scenario. I want you to understand that 90% of the time, you'd have money lasting at least 17 years, and a lot better than that as go to the median, because these are the medians and the highest. Those are such big numbers there. But I always like to kind of prepare what happens in the worst case scenario. You can see a huge difference between age 67, where you aren't running out of money at all, 65, not running out of money, 64, starting to run out of money, but look at 62. The difference between 64 and 62 is a big difference. Again, that's at age 38, but we can change any of these. You can see how all that is affected. It affects your Social Security, and it affects your expenses, expects all this. But that's what we like to do, is run numbers for people just to see what the big difference between 67 and 62 is when you're already kind of in your middle age career. Maybe you got 41, just showing you again some of the numbers. Maybe if you got 56,000 saved up, maybe you can save 500 a month. Well, let's just make 450 a month. Then at age 67, what do those numbers look like? No problem. 65, no problem. 64, still no problem. This 62, 63, we'll do 63. And starting, but man, that 1 year, look at the difference that made. Instead of 23 years of growth, you have 22 years of growth, but that affects Social Security. Like we said, you're only getting 75% of what you were expecting at age 67. Plus, you have one less year of this money going in there. That's what we do on this channel. Let's just do one more with the 62. And you can see 10% of the time your money would last 20 years or less. That's what we do on this channel. We love to run numbers. I just wanted to show you how important that Social Security is. Every year you wait, not only does the Social Security grow, you get closer to having 100% of it instead of 70% or 75 or whatever, you get 100% of what your Social Security statement says you're going to get at age 67. Plus, you got another, each year you wait, you get another year that you're contributing before you start taking the money out. But that's what we do on this channel. I love to run numbers for people. I just thought that was just kind of interesting when you actually see the numbers worked out. The importance between taking money at 62 and 67 can make a huge difference, especially in the worst case scenarios of what's happened in the last 100 years. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a numbers guy, but I love to set up spreadsheets to kind of show you where you might be in the future. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Please share this channel with others, commenting, like these videos. Let people know there's a channel out there that'll run all kinds of numbers for them. And thanks for watching.